Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Stay Connected with the Customer Portal. My name is Mitchell Orolo. I'm a software training consultant here at ConnectWise. And joining me is
Lynette Polson, also a software training consultant here at ConnectWise.
And we are excited to talk to you and teach you about the ConnectWise Customer Portal and everything that it can do for you. Our agenda for today is going to look like the following. We're going to start off going over and reviewing how you can brand and customize the portal to fit your needs. That branding element is key because we want to make sure that our customers feel comfortable when they're using a new service, such as a portal, but they want to know that they are in the right place, and branding is the best way to make that happen. From there, we'll talk about how we can then empower your customers on the customer portal, actually get them up and running and using it. Developing this new tool for your team is great unless it's not being adopted. So we want to make sure that our customers can actually use it. From there, we'll get to what I think is the most interesting part, which is creating meaningful ticket categories. This is how you categorize your services. And this is also going to drive a lot of the automation on the back end, one of the big benefits for using the portal in the first place. Speaking of benefits, this last one's my favorite, and that's make collecting payments easy. We all want to get paid faster, and the easier it is for your customers to pay you, the faster those payments will happen. Now, before we get started, I did have a question for everyone here, and I just want to get a feel for where we're at today. Are your customers using a portal today? And if so, which one? Are you using the new customer portal, which is what will be showing off in this webinar? We just want to learn more. Are you using our older legacy customer portal? If so, I have some good news. We have a lot of new exciting features that I think makes this new portal stand out from the old one. Are you using a third-party portal or no portal at all? Go ahead and chime in. Just want to get a feel for where our audience is at right now. That'll kind of guide us throughout our session today. Very good, seeing a bunch of answers come in. I really appreciate the feedback. And it looks to be about a quarter are using the new customer portal, a fifth are using the old customer portal, and 2/5 are using no portal at all, and then another fifth is using that third-party portal. So either no portal or new customer portal being the majority. So for those of you using the new portals today, you may know some of what we're talking about, but we're also going to be talking about some great new features that have launched in the last year that hopefully you are as excited about as we are. Excellent. Thank you for all of the feedback.
Excellent. Well, on that note then, let's talk about branding and configuring that customer portal so that your customers feel safe and know that they're connecting with you and submitting tickets and all that pertinent information that you need. So when your customers come to you, they are expecting an easy access to submit tickets, check ticket status, and pay invoices. If you're not meeting those expectations, they're going to have some problems, and there's going to be unhappy customers and probably unhappy techs. So by empowering your customers, you also are helping your technicians using the customer portal, and we'll get into how some of that works today. You can make things easier on your team. So from the new customer portal, for those of you who aren't using it or who aren't using any portal, your customers can create, view, and update tickets. This is great. So if they have a question and don't know the status, they can log out there and check that on their own without making a call in and bogging down your help desk. They can also track those projects. So if your project managers are running in a million different directions and can't necessarily always get to give them updates on time, this is a great opportunity for that as well. And finally, the thing that we're all excited about is viewing and paying those invoices online. So they could do that from the customer portal, get the breakdown of what their services are, and pay that, and you have that money right away as opposed to the checks in the mail. So like I said, your benefits are that those tickets get created with the right information. We'll talk about how we do that and by creating surveys. And I know sometimes you're like, oh, but my customer's not going to take all the time to put all that information in. I can show you some tips and tricks on how we can make that really easy for them so that you get the information you need to be successful in assisting them as quickly as possible. And like I said, we're going to lower that call volume. So they're not going to need to call in to check on the status of that ticket or that project. They're going to be able to do that on their own at their convenience. So maybe, maybe they have customers have people working off hours, when you don't necessarily have people manning those phones, they can still check the status of that and even update if there's issues that are happening after hours. Less questions on those projects and tickets. So again, they can submit that stuff and see the status all on their own. And of course, the biggest thing that we're all excited about, and I think probably the reason everybody's here today, let's be honest, Mitch, is getting those invoices paid in less time. We all want that money faster, quicker in our bank account and moving on. So if you haven't set up your portal before, you would log in. You navigate to the portal via your region. So you can see here, this is where you would go always to administer it as well. So no more administering it through Manage. This would be your one stop for that. The first time you log in, it's going to walk you through a wizard and show you how to set up your first portal. So let's look at what that looks like. So here you can see our customer portal. We have a few existing already. The advantage for those of you who are still on that legacy portal is we can now have up to 10 customer custom portals out here. So you can have your one default. If you're using a lot of Streamline IT, you can custom and brand that to those companies. So it looks like they're logging into that company's help desk and seamless, and they don't even know that it's you guys instead. But to create a new portal, we just click the Create New Portal button. And then we go here. The first thing we get to do is customize that name. So it's an easy way for your customers to find you and makes it personal. In this case, we're going to have our customer-facing URL be Hogwarts and the friendly domain name as well. We're going on a magical adventure today, guys. Next, when you create that portal, you want to allow different sign-in methods. So this is how it verifies who they are. So it's kind of a multi-factor to make sure that the correct person is logging in and gives them added security. We definitely suggest at least having the generic SSO turned on, but if you know your customers are using Outlook or Google Mail, those are also a good option. Next, and this is the exciting part for those of you who are still on our legacy, you can brand it to look exactly like you want for your company. You can do the colors. You can see here we have a couple of different images, and we'll see where those pop up later. That way your customers feel very safe and secure knowing they are going to your portal or your team and that any information will be stayed within that security. We also get to add our little welcome tagline and any subtext to help them understand where they are. So in this case, help will always be given to those who ask for it at Hogwarts. The next, you can click the preview button at the bottom before you go through all the steps to see what that first page is going to look like. So this is what the customer is going to see when they first log into your portal at that unique URL that you set up on the previous screen. So next we get to choose our audience. So if we are doing this as our generic one company stop, we can have it as all companies. If you're using it for Streamline IT or maybe just a specific customer or maybe just your VIP portal, you can narrow that down by either location or company. And then we get to set our default ticket source. I highly recommend to have this as portal so that you know that the tickets are coming in through the portal. And then what the default service board you want those tickets to come in on. You then get to set if you want them to be able to see other boards. So maybe you have an escalation board and you want them to be able to see it, but you always want the tickets to come in on that tier 1. This is where you would do that from, so they can still view those tickets even if those aren't the ones that it's coming in as. Next, we want to set up payment. So this is how we get to paying those invoices online. First, we have the checkbox for the Display New Portal Invoice. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Mitch will go over it a little later. The New Portal Invoice gives you collapsible sections, which is awesome for your customers to look at what they want to see. If you still want to use the standard invoice template that you've been using in the past, just turn this off. Next, you can select a payment provider. Before you can select a payment provider from the dropdown, you have to have them set up in your payment providers. So you can add a provider, and Mitch will go into this in a little more detail coming up as well.
All right, so we've done the hard part. Our portal now exists. Unfortunately, no one's using it yet. So let's see what we can do to make that happen. Before we do that though, I do have a quick question for you. How are your clients' contacts added to Manage today? You can type this in if you want, or really just think it over. How are those new contacts for your customers ending up in your instance of Manage? Are you using one of our import spreadsheets when you're onboarding a new customer? Are you having your customers call in and tell you and ask for a new user to be added? Is it a automatic process when a customer emails into your email connector for the first time? Well, I have some good news. Regardless of what that process is for you, it doesn't need to change for us to grant access to the portal for these new contacts in Manage. The first thing that just needs to happen for a user to have access to the portal is they need to exist as a contact in Manage. Regardless of how they're created, once they're there, that first step is done. The second step is even easier. The contact just needs to be marked as active, which they are by default. Contact that's inactive won't have access right away, but they'll be able to request access. And then finally, we simply need to send the portal URL to the customers. This is the big change for those of you that were using the legacy customer portal, where you were responsible for managing the credentials of your customers. That's no longer required. It's not only is this less work for you, it's also much more secure. We don't want to be sending email addresses or sending out passwords and login information via email. It's not ideal. It's in the past. So now they can simply adjust this themselves when they go to log in. They're responsible for their own credentials, which is the modern way of signing on to just about anything. Now, because we do have those two different portals that you can use within Manage at once, this can cause a bit of confusion. So I wanted to clear that up. Here we're looking at Aaron Laurie, a contact in our instance of Manage. And that status I mentioned before, where they can be either active or inactive, is right here. So right now, Aaron does not have access. However, if you were to try to access the portal, he'd be able to request access. And maybe we will, maybe we won't grant him access. You may also notice that there appears to be two customer portal fields right down below that status. These are irrelevant. They're tied to the old customer portal, not used in the new one at all. We're going to be using that admin portal instead that Lynette showed us previously. You'll notice I also have the setup tables crossed out. There are a couple portal setup tables. Again, those are not related to the new portal at all. Those are strictly used for that older legacy portal that some of you are still using. So if you're looking to move over to the new portal, you don't need to worry about either of these settings. Now, that last step I mentioned, we just need to send an email link out to our customers. We have a tool available for you within Manage to do this called the Communications Manager. It is found under the marketing module. So really what we're doing here, we're not marketing to new customers, we're marketing out a new service that we're offering, our new portal that we're launching. We want to drive that adoption. And the Communications Manager allows us to find, group, and email all of our contacts at once. So let's take an example. I'm rolling out the new customer portal for my business for the first time. I want to go ahead and send out the login information, that URL that they'll use to access it, but I don't want to roll that to everyone at once. I'm a little hesitant, so I'm going to trial run it with just one company. So I've gone ahead and filtered my contacts here to find only contacts at Brown, Buford, and White Accounting. And now I can go ahead, select everything, compose an email, and then add in any additional information I want. Instructions on how to use the portal, why it's going to be useful for them. They can create tickets faster. They can pay their invoices easier. They can review things on their own time. Once I've told them all the benefits, I'll include that link to the portal in the email as well, and send it off to all those contacts simultaneously. They can log in, set their own credentials, and boom, they'll be in, and it will look like this right here. Or at least it will if they are a full admin, such as Bruce Banner right here. He has access to everything that you can do within the portal, but we don't necessarily want to give that permissions to everyone. So we have a couple different permissions that you can take advantage of. If we want to adjust the permissions for any of our users, this is going to be done within that admin portal itself, and we can give them a range anywhere from full admin to no access whatsoever. No access, of course, they'll only be able to log in. A couple things in the middle, such as ticket manager, billing admin, are more role focused based on why they're using the portal, such as to pay invoices or manage the tickets for everyone on their team. We have all of this documented on the university, so I'm not going to go through it all now, but here's just a quick rundown of what each will do. So let's take a look at what this would actually look like in practice for your users. For example, if I had a ticket set up as read-only, well, that's about it. They can log into the portal and review any open or existing tickets. But if we were to mix it up and try out a ticket manager, you're going to see things start to expand. In addition to reviewing tickets and creating tickets, they can also review those ongoing projects and manage those users, so they can go ahead and manage their team. If they wanted to review a specific ticket, they can click in and review all of those tickets, their statuses, their priority, make updates. I can see things that are in green, on hold. I can see if there's any technicians. Unfortunately, it looks like we haven't started working their tickets yet. That's probably why he's on here reviewing, wondering why he hasn't gotten an update. And now at a glance, he knows exactly why he hasn't gotten an update. No one has been assigned. That's something my team will go ahead and want to catch up on. He can also review their projects as well. This is something I think is underutilized with the portal because projects just inherently are so very complicated. We want to make sure that there's a lot of clarity between what work is being done and what work still needs to be done. Here I can see a relatively simple list of all my projects, but if I open one, I now get a great level of detail on exactly what's going on. I can see when work is scheduled, the project's on track, a percentage complete. I can click into this to see even more detail of each item. For example, my assessment data collection, I've already completed one of the 6 tasks that need to be completed, and I can see what each of those tasks are. What we're looking at here is a kind of more end-user friendly version of the project work plans you see in Manage. This assessment data collection, that's a phase on our project in Manage, and these tasks we see, the 1 of 6, those are actually project tickets. They don't need to see the nitty-gritty detail of individual tickets, what's going on, but they want to see what's done, what still needs to be done, and they get all of that right here. Less questions they need to ask you because they can find the answers themselves.
Thanks for that, Mitch. So now let's look at how we create meaningful ticket categories and how we get that information, the information we need into Manage so that our text can be the most efficient. So of course your technicians are less efficient when they're assigned tickets that don't have the information. They end up playing phone tag, maybe they send some email communication back and forth, and they're not able to solve that ticket. And the customer gets frustrated, the techs are frustrated, phone tag's not fun for anybody. So let's look at how we can get that information in the ticket right away so the tech can get the ticket fixed and on the client on their way. So what are some of the common questions and requests that your customers submit? Feel free to add them in the chat or just kind of think about it. And let's talk about what we need to be prepared for when we're creating those ticket categories. The more information that we know ahead of time of what they're going to submit, the better questions we can ask and make sure we get the information we need to be successful. So in the past, we've heard that a lot of the things that they get in are install applications, performance issues, forgotten passwords. I'm sure this bogs down your desk, unable to log in, desktop crashing, and a new employee starting. I know in the past, I used to work for an MSP who was a partner with ConnectWise, and a new employee, it would back and forth trying to get all the details that we needed to get them set up. It was ridiculous. We can now get all of that information right through the portal and get what they need configured and out the door. But we also have those non-service related. So billing questions, a lot of those can be solved if they can just look at the invoice, wanting to contact their account manager, and purchasing hardware. This is all information, all ticket categories we can make and have them go to the right boards right from the portal. So when you log in, this is what your service catalog looks like. In the new portal, we now have categories, so you can sort them under different things. And we'll see how that looks when the customer comes in a little bit later. But this way you can have them, if they're looking for a sales issue, we can make sure that we're directing them to the right board and asking the right information, or a service issue. So right away, they know what type of issue, and you can limit what they're seeing so they're not having to scroll through a whole list to try figuring out what their issue is. So to create a new service, just click the Create Service button here, and that's going to open up this. So we now get to save so much time by pre-processing those tickets in Manage. I don't know how many of you are currently using a dispatcher, but this will help if your technicians are self-dispatching and picking those teams, this will help make sure that they have the correct information and have things sorted, and we can even apply ticket templates to sort them for you. So first, we're going to make sure it gets onto the right board with the right status. So of course, we want this to come in as a new on the Tampa service board so that we make sure that it's assigned to the right team is seeing it. Next, we can pick the type, subtype, and item. This is great for reporting on those tickets. And then Auto categorizes those and ticket templates. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. The newest feature in the customer portal is being able to make these visible to the customer. So that's cool because then they can see if there's a specific type, or maybe we want to show them the priority, which is the next thing we get to set based on the ticket type. So if it's a complete Wi-Fi down, we definitely probably want that as a priority 1. And then we can show that to the customer. So if there are inconsistencies in, we think the printer issue is maybe just a priority 3, but it's the VP, so maybe he wants you to bump that up. The customers can absolutely see that and understand the response times that are happening accordingly. So then we get to drag and drop to create those questions that we're going to ask the customer. And I know you think your customers are not going to type in all the information. That's fine. We can set drop downs, text boxes, radio buttons, check boxes, all of the things to make it easy to get the information you need. So you see here we have our list of options in the drop down, great for which house you are in Hogwarts, or maybe you need to use radio buttons for what applications a new user needs. Whatever you need to get it easy for the client to get the information that you need in a timely manner. Next, this is the new feature in the most recent release. You can map to a custom field for Manage. So in our new client example, you need to know what date they're starting. So you can have a date field that maps back to that custom field on the service ticket and Manage, so the technician knows how urgent this is and how soon they need to be starting on getting this information out there. Next, we can create the summary. So this is going to relate to that ticket summary that they see on the service board. So they have all of the information they need, as opposed to those email tickets that come in with help, urgent, and absolutely nothing useful. We can also build this from those drop downs that we just created on our ticket. So you can see here that I don't want to be in, and it's going to pull whatever house they selected from that drop down, and please move to whatever house they selected in the next drop down. So that quickly the technician knows exactly what's being asked of them, or the dispatcher knows what type of ticket it is and can easily assign it out. Next, you get to choose your audience. So this is great for if you want to have, maybe you have different ticket types that you can have for different customers. Maybe you do one type of support for this customer, but not for this customer. You can limit which service options they're seeing. So you can either set it to a global audience or that you only want a custom audience to see it. So first we can select that by roles, like Mitch was just talking. So which roles can see this? And then which portals. So in this case, we only want it active on our Hogwarts portal. Nobody else needs to be concerned about our magical issues today. And then next, we can even narrow that down further. So if we want to set it to a specific company or even a specific location, we can do that here as well. So we can really narrow down and be very specific with our questions that our customers are seeing. So we make sure that only the right customers are getting the right questions so they're not overwhelmed with the number of options. And then I mentioned a couple of times, applying ticket templates. So we can sort our ticket template based from that type, subtype, and item that we put on our ticket when we were first opening it. And then we can say what we want it to do. In this case, we want it to append our tasks and add to the summary. So you can see what this then looks like on the ticket in Manage. You can see that we have our new note down there, and that our tasks, we have 3 tasks assigned to the ticket. And fun pro tip, this is also on the recent release, you can now get rid of that generic "I have a problem" ticket. Doesn't have any information, you can't change it when it's in there, so you can now remove it so your customers no longer see it. To take that off, you just need to remove the default service tab, default service board from the portal. So by taking that to no longer setting a default service board, the "I have a problem" will no longer come up. You can still set what service boards you want your tickets to go to from the questions themselves. So lastly, before I leave you, let's look through what it would look like when the customer walks through this whole thing. This is what they'll first see when they log into your portal, your company picture, the icon, and whatever message you want for them. Next, if they are able to create tickets, if that's their user access, they will have to select a category. We already put our tickets into these different categories, so we know what their options are. And so now you can see we're asking them to pick a question. What are they? Is the Wi-Fi down? They can't log in. All of these then relate back to those different types, subtypes, and priorities. Now they get their questions. Quick, easy drop downs in this case, and a little text box of just give us a little more information. After they submit it, they will immediately see what the ticket has. They will see that I allowed them to see the type, so they know that it's a Hogwarts ticket, and they can see the status is new and the technician is unassigned. If we had made any of the other fields like the priority visible, that would show up here as well. They also get all of the details that were submitted into the ticket.
All right, so now that your customers are using the portal to its fullest, let's go ahead and see if we can get them to pay their invoices a little bit sooner. And I want you to think now, and how long does it typically take for customers to pay their invoices? I have to say the most common answer I hear when I ask this question is simply too long. And that's something we'd like to change, and I think the portal can help with that. So first, it's going to function as the client's invoicing hub. They can see and review any and all their invoices readily from here, and with a level of clarity that they might not otherwise be used to. And then in addition to that, they can also make payments. And one good thing about those payments, they are effortless click to pay, because we integrate with a variety of different payment processors, and we can set up that payment integration to run smoothly on both the list of invoices and on individual invoices, so they can know what needs to be paid and make the payments right there, ultimately serving to get you paid sooner so you can celebrate. When they're reviewing their invoices, it's going to look like this right here. Hopefully they're not as past due as my invoices are, especially for some of those high ticket items. If this was a real Hogwarts business, I'd be sweating a little bit. And you can see they not only can they review these invoices, they can make payments directly from here as well. Right now, this portal is integrated with WisePay, but there are 3 different payment processors you can take advantage of. You have WisePay, Connect Booster, and PayPal, and the screens will look a little different depending on which one you are using. Rather than review all of your invoices, you can also drill into a specific invoice. You can see that pay button is still readily available right there. Here, we're looking at one of my monthly agreement invoices, specifically billing for October, and I can see a summary of what's being billed, that $2,200. But if I'm a customer and I have questions and I say, this is a little more expensive than I'm used to, why is that? I can open this drop down and see exactly where that value is coming from. Oh, we actually have 20 managed workstations, whereas last month we only had 18. That's a change. Now I can understand why. We want to make sure that any potential questions the customer has, we can answer for them without them having to contact you, which slows them down, uses up your team's time. They have some phone tag. We want to make sure that their questions are quickly and easily answered. And if they do have questions, well, they can create a billing ticket that's routed directly to your billing team, directly from the portal using one of those services Lynette showed off earlier.
Excellent. So Mitchell, our key takeaways today are tailor the customer experience to your brand. Make sure that your customers know that they're connecting with you and feel secure and safe and putting in the information that you need to help them with their services. Next, create a consistency with the detailed service catalog. So getting those questions that you need and making sure those questions are being answered every time in a timely manner so your techs have the information to be as efficient as they can possibly be. And finally, as Mitch said, let's get paid faster with the portal invoices. Let's not worry about the checks in the mail taking a month to get paid. The client can log on, see their invoice, and pay it right away. No more waiting for snail mail. So lastly, a couple things that we want to leave you with before we get to questions. Out on the university, if you need more information on setting up your customer portal, we have a partner kit out there for you. Lots of documentation, brandable templates, and this webinar will live out there as well. So if you missed something or want to go back and review something, this will be out there for you. Next, we also wanted to share just a little bit of what's coming up on the partner portal roadmap. So these are things that are in the works on being updated and integrated as coming up, and this is also viewable from the ConnectWise University under the document. Is it under documentation or education, Mitch? I forget.
It is under documentation.
Excellent, that is what I thought. So under documentation, if you go to the roadmap, you can select the customer portal and see what is coming for that. So with that, I will open it up to you. Do we have any questions that have come in, Mitch?
We did have several questions come in. I want to tackle my first and favorite question right off the bat. Is this webinar recorded? Absolutely. And good news, if you're asking that question, you probably don't know about our video library where you can find a recording of every webinar we do. So go ahead, head to the university, check out that video library. You'll be able to find this webinar in the near future, as well as tons of webinars about every product we offer under the sun, so you can learn to your heart's content.
And like I just mentioned, it will also live in the partner portal kit. That is also under the education.
Lynette, if you could jump to a specific slide for me, I would appreciate it. It is the slide where we showed off how we can make the type and priority as visible. We had some questions come in on that, and I just checked our docs. And since that is a super new feature, our docs don't have that updated screenshot yet, but I want to be able to show it off while I talk to it.
Unfortunately, my PowerPoint is being weird, so I'm going to have to go through all of them. I apologize.
Oh, don't worry. That's my favorite way to go through slides too.
Speed on reverse. Let's see. Bear with me.
Almost there.
Oh, actually, I went too far. Sorry. This is what happens when you're going in reverse fast.
Anyway, while we pull that up, the setting up the board is going to be done here on the screen. It's one of the first steps when you're building a new service, and this is also where you can set the different fields to be visible. Here we are. Step 1 of 4 when editing a service. We actually had 2 questions related to the screen, so that's why I wanted to pull it up. First question was, can we set services to go to different boards? Absolutely, that's done in that parameters section you see on that left-hand side. You click service board, so each and every service can be mapped to whichever board. Your billing questions go to the board for your finance team. Your sales questions go to the board for the sales team. If you have different service offerings with their own service boards, we can make sure the services on the portal map to those respective boards. The second question is going to be around making those types and priorities editable. Yes, you can edit them, but first we do also need to make them visible. You can make them visible here, and then once they've been flagged as visible, we can then incorporate them into those forms so the customer can edit them. All right, let me see if we have any other questions. Can we test this on one client? We are currently using the legacy customer portal. Absolutely. That's actually the example I walked through earlier when I was showing granting access to your portal. Once you set this portal up, you don't need to worry about customers using it because they're not going to find it. You have to give them the link for them to actually log on and use it. So set up this portal, and if you want to trial it with one customer, use that communications manager I showed off earlier to just send the emails only to contacts at that customer, giving them the link and letting them start getting a feel for it. this is a great way to test it out for your own team. So if in case there is something off or a little mistake, it's not affecting your entire customer base, only that one trial client as an experience. Are there any link for Australians? Yeah, I sent the link to the admin portals before. I believe there is an Australia link in there. Yes, there is. I'll resend this out to you so you have access to it. We have an admin portal for North America, for Europe, and Australia. What are the 3 options for payment processing? They are WisePay, Connect Booster, and PayPal. And yes, you do need to be using the customer portal to use the payment through the portal. They have to be able to access the portal to be able to pay invoices through there. Can you set the priority based on customers' answer to a certain question? Not quite. What we can do is set different priorities based on the actual tile they pick themselves. So if you do want to break out different priorities, that might be an instance where instead of using a question within a service, create 2 different tiles for them to choose between. That way you can map to different priorities based on the nature of the issue.
Or maybe even have them have an option of like under Wi-Fi all out or just one user. So maybe kind of sorting those questions ahead of time of is the company down or just one user?
Yep. Next questions, can we exclude projects for viewing? Yes, this can be done on a board by board basis or just exclude all projects entirely. So you can have customer facing projects and then internal projects separated on their own boards. That way it's very clear which ones the customers will be able to see and will not. Can the invoices be pulled up to be viewed as a PDF the same way the client originally received the invoice? Yes, it's an either or. So that invoice I showed off earlier was if you set up your portal to use the new invoice, that was the toggle Lynette showed up in the initial setup. If you would like to stick to the older standard PDFs they're used to, don't want to mix it up and change it on them, just don't turn the new invoices on and they'll continue to see their older invoices.
And then I see that there's a question about turning off the new categorization feature. So these types and items, if you don't set anything in them, they will not set anything by default. So they are not required when you are creating your service.
Oh, I think that question is more along the lines of the ticket categories, where you can put the different tiles into subtiles. Oh. I don't think we can turn that off, unfortunately. But I would suggest maybe coming up with a couple non-service ones to split them out better, such as billing questions or sales questions, because your customers do have those questions and we do want to make sure that those get routed to the correct location. If we have the procurement add-on, is the customer going to see the status of their orders online? Not at this time, but I believe that was one of the items on our roadmap. We're looking to start adding more aspects of Manage to be available in the portal. I know one big one on our roadmap is opportunities and other sales related things, but it's not there yet. Is ConnectWise using this portal when we log tickets with ConnectWise? I do not believe so. I believe that is, we're going to be using ConnectWise Home for that, something we built ourselves to show off all the different products that we have to offer. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions. Lynette, did you see any that I missed?
I do not.
All right, well, thank you guys all for joining us on this webinar. I hope you enjoy the rest of your days. Check out our other webinars on the university. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.